Thank you all for being here today. I am Donald Brundage, a native Washingtonian. I went to Dunbar High School. Like many people, I experienced some difficult times after a divorce. I lived with friends for a while, then eventually began staying at 801 East Men's Shelter. Thanks to Mayor Bowser, her administration, and my caseworkers at Pathway to Housing, D.C., my experience with homelessness was brief. And now the mayor is welcoming me to my new home. Thank you all for being here today, and it is my pleasure to introduce Mayor Bowser.
Thank you.
How you doing? You from North Michigan Park?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I played basketball with them.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you, Donald, for that introduction, and I'm looking forward to touring with you your new unit. And thank you for letting every Washingtonian know that we're here to help each other. Fellow Washingtonians, people who want to make sure that everybody in our city has a fair shot at success. We were at the new 801 Men's Shelter just a few weeks ago. We invited the entire government and people who work with us on all homeless issues in the city to come to 801 Men's East, because it's really a model for what we need to do for the entire men's system. Donald's story is a very strong story about the work that Laura and her team at DHS do. In our entire Homeward DC organizations do to make sure we can make homelessness rare. People have emergencies, divorces, illnesses, lost jobs, and the city needs to be there with a safety net to help people when they're having an emergency and help them get back to their lives. You'll remember that in 2016, we laid out a plan, the Homeward DC plan, and the goal was to make homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring. And I'm proud to say, and we have the data to back it up, that we are making good progress. Before we share the results of the 2022 point-in-time count, I want to acknowledge that we are joined by several members of our team, including Laura Zeilinger and her team at the Department of Human Services. Give them a big round of applause. I like to point to Laura's tenure in D.C. government. This is her second time around, her longest time around, and it's because we've had that longevity and leadership. I'm certain that we're able to drive down these numbers. I also want to introduce Teresa Sia. Give Teresa a big round of applause. She is the Executive Director of the D.C. Interagency on Homelessness. And there are also other members of the ICH here, so give them a big round of applause, including Crispy Respres, who leads Pathway. So thank you for being here, Christy. We're also joined by representatives of the Community Partnership for the Prevention of Homelessness, which oversees the point-in-time count. So thank you to the Community Partnership. So I am proud to say today that for the 6th consecutive year, overall homelessness is down in Washington, D.C., and it's not just down, it's down to its lowest point in 17 years. So when we started implementing Homeward DC in 2016, there were just over 8,300 people experiencing homelessness in DC. 6 years later, we have just over 4,400 people experiencing homelessness, which is nearly a 50% drop. Family homelessness is down again. The number of families living in shelter dropped 14% over the last year, and that's down 78% since we launched Homeward DC. And in 2015, we began offering year-round access to family shelter. This was an initiative that Laura felt very strongly would change the trajectory of the experiences of our families in D.C. At the time, I thought it was a really big risk, but it turns out that dealing with people when they're having their emergencies, not just when it's cold outside, allows our team and our residents to have a better shot at making it in permanent housing. So these drops are happening even as we expanded access to shelter. So that speaks to the making sure that our programs are effective and available when needed. Last year, we reported a small decrease in homelessness among single adults. And this year, we can report a 12% decrease among single adults. So while this is all good news, and we should all be proud, and there are a lot of people that deserve progress, our teams at DHS and DMHHS, the Interagency Council on Homelessness, and all of our community partners who work with DHS every single day are building relationships in the city to execute our progress on Homeward, D.C. But we know there is a lot more to do. We know, for example, that even though homelessness is down, the pandemic has changed the way people experience homelessness, and many more people are living in encampments today than before the pandemic. We know that the protocols put in place to keep our shelters safe and prevent outbreaks also cause some people to stay outside instead. So we want to be real clear. We don't want people living in tents on the streets of Washington, D.C. We want them working with our outreach workers every single day on the abundant services, shelter, and housing that we have available. And that's why we launched the CARE pilot last year, so that we could more effectively move residents from encampments into housing. It's why we have a focus on building more dignified shelter and have invested, with my FY23 budget proposal, $114 million to replace aging shelters. And if you want to know how serious we are about that, please visit 801 East Men's Shelter to see what we can do. We've also included an additional $31 million to end chronic homelessness. This $31 million not only funds housing vouchers, it also funds the systems changes necessary to continue our progress. And that's what Laura will talk to you all about. We've had tremendous success building and fixing those systems for our families, leading to a 78% decrease. And now that focused attention needs to be on our singles system. We do all this work and we make these big investments because we firmly believe, especially in our city, that homelessness is a solvable problem. So I'm very, very proud of all the work that we've done thus far, and I'm even more energized to continue this important work. So with that, I want to turn to Laura Zeilinger, the Director of the Department of Human Services.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. And good morning. My name is Laura Green Zeilinger, and I could not be more honored to serve this city, this mayor, and lead a phenomenal team at the Department of Human Services. And Donald, I want to just tell you, I am looking forward to welcoming you in your new home, and I want to thank you for sharing your experiences and your story. Not everybody has to share the way that you did, the things that are most difficult in their lives, and your generosity in sharing your story is really appreciated because it gives hope to people who may have given up hope that they can realize a home again. So I just want to extend my gratitude to you for being willing to be out front and share. And I want to also congratulate you on your resilience and strength as you regain housing and reclaim your life from a place of stability in this beautiful building behind us. I cannot wait to see your place. I'd like to acknowledge Sue Marshall, and although she couldn't be here, she's the executive director of the Community Partnership, our Continuum of Care lead. They lead the Point in Time, and she has been steadfast in the district's efforts to end homelessness for many years. And it is really the partnership we have with TCP, our relentless focus on data, the self-critical nature in which we look at our programs and reforms that we're able to achieve the kind of progress that we are. And I want to thank the mayor for acknowledging the tremendous staff at DHS, and I just want to echo the appreciation for my team as well as our partners, Christy Respress as well at Pathways to Housing, who not only is a tremendous partner in our work to end chronic homelessness, but also has been working with Donald to help him regain a place that is home. So thank you we could not do what we do without the work of our entire community. So the story of this year's Point in Time count really reflects on this great partnership and the tremendous leadership of a mayor who is willing to take risks and do things that might be counterintuitive, which is really ensure that we are helping people year round and providing them services. There are some who thought if we build it, they will come, and then there is what we really know is that people, because of poverty, because of job loss, mental illness, and things that happen in people's lives, that any of us can find ourselves in a place of instability, and it is having those services and making them available that allows us to really create a system that can make homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring. And the number of households who are experiencing homelessness now is the lowest it's been since at least 2005, and that is something to really celebrate. We've just been joined by Councilmember Nadeau, and I want to acknowledge the partnership with Council and her leadership on the Human Services Committee, the willingness to fund the resources that are behind a lot of this progress and her support of the mayor's budget and the additional resources that have been made available there. So from 2016 to 2022, we were able to decrease family homelessness by 78.4%. And that is, I know the mayor said it, and it's worth repeating and celebrating because it shows us what is possible, that when we're proactive, that we can prevent homelessness. And since 2015, our homelessness prevention program for families has diverted almost 10,000 unique families from having to enter shelter by helping problem solve, provide them the resources they need and mediation support so that they can avoid the crisis and the trauma of homelessness. These lessons learned we're applying to our single adult system. Our Streamlining Intake initiative is a multi-year effort that is focused on reforming the front door to our single adult system. No matter which door or which entry point, a touch point someone has with our system, whether they see an outreach worker in an encampment, they're in a shelter or day services program, we'll be able to assess their needs and connect them to what they need in order to help them with the right resources earlier, similar to what we are able to do in the family system. Over the upcoming year, we're establishing a homelessness prevention hotline, a walk-in center, stationing homelessness prevention and rapid exit staff at our low barrier shelters, expanding eligibility for our homelessness prevention resources through our Project Reconnect program, and coordinating assessments across the system to ensure that we are preventing homelessness and shortening stays whenever possible. We're also excited, as the mayor said, to replace and redesign our emergency shelters to enhance a sense of dignity, safety, and improve outcomes for our residents. We are shifting to take a more proactive approach to case management in our low barrier shelters so that clients really understand what options are available to them and can get connected to the right resource for them. Too often we see residents in shelter because they didn't have information that might have helped them at the right time. They might, and so there's, in any case, we're very excited about being able to connect people to the right resource at the right time and help them understand what they're eligible for. We believe in a housing first approach, and it is that housing first approach that we attribute to this progress with the thousands of people that we have been able to connect to permanent supportive housing and the housing supports they need. And while these numbers are great, behind every number we know there is a person with a unique set of experiences, who is somebody's son or daughter, brother or sister, and is worthy and deserves the support that we can offer as a community to help them have the dignity and safety of a place that is home. One number that we did not mention today, and one that I personally feel most proud of, is that we have reduced chronic homelessness among single adults in the last year alone by over 22%. When we talk about chronic homelessness, those are people who with the longest histories of homelessness and who have had repeated episodes of homelessness, as well as a disabling condition. And without the offer of permanent supportive housing, without preconditions to that housing, are likely to remain homeless. And it is really helping folks who have otherwise been stuck within our system without access to support through that assertive and relentless engagement that we are ending homelessness in our community. We had a very small number of families, we counted 17 in our point in time count, who are experiencing chronic homelessness in January. I'm thrilled to say that 9 of them are in housing now, and the other 8 are working on their housing, which means that we have effectively created an end to chronic homelessness among families in the District of Columbia. I see additional partners coming, and I'm seeing Brenda Donald, our director of the DC Housing Authority, and we are here on the grounds of the DC Housing Authority. And as I mentioned earlier, this is an all-of-community effort. It is an effort of partnership. So again, I'm thrilled to share this great news, to say that the systems reform that we have been hard at work at is doing exactly what we thought, that it is showing that homelessness is a problem that is solvable, and if we can solve it, we must, and we will. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura. I just got goosebumps. Because when you can talk in single digits about families and be able to identify exactly where they are in the system and then say that could be the end, yeah, I like it. Councilmember Nadeau?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Director. I'm so encouraged to be here today to reflect on the work that we've all been doing together. To hear that number, that reduction in chronic homelessness, that is a reflection of an incredible amount of effort across all sectors in the District of Columbia, whether it's our government, our mayor, our agencies, our council, our community partners, and our residents who work together to shape our roadmap, our Homeward DC roadmap, to end homelessness, to make it rare, brief, and non-recurring. But that 22% reduction in chronic homelessness, that is something I am particularly proud of, because that is something that we did. With this significant investments in permanent supportive housing for individuals, we are ending chronic homelessness for residents in the District of Columbia. With the Homes and Hearts Amendment that the council passed last year, adding $65 million annually to the budget to serve more than 2,200 households experiencing homelessness, we are getting this done. With the investments the mayor has made, we are getting this done. With the changes to the system, we are getting this done. And this is not just a project. These are people's lives. These are people's family members. So I just want to thank everybody here for the incredible partnership that has brought us to this day. Now let's get back to work. Thank you.
Okay. Donald, please join me. I have something for you. Okay, so Laura, join me, please, for any questions. Yes, Mark.
one, I'm wondering, we don't have the report yet, so I'm wondering, were there any categories that went up, and which ones were they, if there were? And can you tell us about unaccompanied youth and veterans specifically?
Yep. So, thanks, Mark. Most of our categories went down. The number of people experiencing unsheltered homelessness was effectively flat. There were 9 additional people between 21 and 22 who were counted as unsheltered, so that would be a 1% increase, or 9 people, likely kind of consistent with a margin of error. Our veteran number, it was up 11%. Now we know, sort of like with our family number, that those are veterans for whom we have a housing resource, and the VA is working on connecting them through the HUD-VASH program. There were 205 veterans who were counted in 22 versus 184 in 2021. In terms of youth, we have, now you may know, Mark, that we do both a youth count in the summer over a full week period, which we think gives us a much more robust understanding of youth homelessness. It helps us understand the characteristics and traits of young people who are experiencing homelessness, who often are not seen within systems because they're intentionally sometimes staying hidden or maybe couch surfing, but coming into day center programs. We did count 351 unaccompanied transition-aged youth compared to 325 the year before. We actually take this as a good sign because we are reaching and seeing more young people, and we have added beds within our system so that we've got people in good services. So while that number is higher, an 8% increase, it also is likely due to the increase in our services and our ability to see those folks because we're engaging them with services during the, in January and counting them. Every other number within our point in time count went down in terms of the subcategories.
And then could I have one more question, either for you and or the mayor? And the mayor acknowledged that encampments have gone up by your own agency's data, more than 100 homeless encampments now across the district. So what do you say to residents who will hear these numbers, this, that this great number of, such a successful reduction in chronic homelessness, at the same time they're seeing more tent encampments than ever before?
Well, I say to them what I've said in many other settings, Mark, and what I've said here today, is that in a city with the resources that we have that I just described, no one needs to live in a tent, because we have our outreach workers out there talking to them, offering them services, shelter, and housing. And we need them to work with us, to accept the help that we're offering, and to get out of tents. Yes.
Attacks against the population, the community in D.C. and New York. How did the recent attacks against the community in New York and D.C. affect the impact and urgency of your effort here? And what are you doing right now for those who are still on the street to keep them safe?
Well, Adelia, I would say we've always been working very urgently. I think our care pilot has been engaged since the late fall, winter of last year to get people into housing. And we're going to keep pushing on that. So that's what we're doing each and every day. I'm grateful to the Metropolitan Police Department for their fast work. But we know, just like all of us that go home at night and turn the key on a door, that's when we're going to be safer. And that is what we work toward every day for people experiencing homelessness.
I do have another question. I've spoken to some ANC commissioners, specifically in the Northeast Benning Road area, who said we do have homeless encampments that the city, in essence, has created, but no one's monitoring. No one's making sure the residents are keeping safe. We haven't created any
homeless encampments, so I don't know what you mean by that.
Are there measures being taken to keep residents safe, homeowners safe, when there is a homeless encampment in their community?
What I would ask any homeowner or resident or to contact us, and we can certainly, through Laura's efforts, talk to them about the outreach efforts that we're making. It is true, like there is a lot of focus in the downtown, but we know, and I know as I go around the city, I may see one or two people or one person that's in a far off place. And we first of all want to know that we're connecting to that individual and offering services, but their encampments aren't permitted anywhere. And that's why we want all the residents to know the services that are available to get them into shelter or housing as soon as possible.
Madam Mayor, kind of an unrelated question, but is there any other updates on Bruno the Frenchie?
No.
Thank you.
Just one on topic and one off topic. The on topic question, can you just talk about the challenges of ongoing outreach? I mean, you want to get this number down to 0 across the board. How difficult is it to sort of continue to chip away and try and encourage people to get them into services? Has that gotten any more challenging? And then an off topic question as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
So let me just talk to you, because 7 years ago, people were saying how difficult it would be for us to close DC General and get families into housing and to open short-term family housing in all 8 wards, and report a 78% decrease in the funding available to effectively end family homelessness in the District of Columbia. That's what they said 7 years ago. And each day, each month, each budget, we chipped away until we are now going to be able to achieve that goal for families in the district. Our team knows all those process changes, all of the funding needed, all of the facility changes, all of the outreach to help make that possible for more people. It is among the most difficult work that I've ever done. It's even difficult for communities to say, we want to end family homelessness, and our community is going to be a part of the solution. All of those things are hard. It's hard for me to take a proposal to the council that says, hey, we're going to build shelters in your council district. Are you going to be with us? And Nadeau was with us. That wasn't the whole case everywhere. We even moved it, I think, in the case in Ward 1. So these are tough conversations, but we are going to have them. The people who are living unsheltered on the streets, also very tough. A lot of barriers, and I don't have to tell you, a lot of barriers that we're working with to get people services, whether substance abuse, mental health counseling, whether it's working with people who have different housing needs. So all of that is tough. But in our city, we have the know-how and the resources, and the taxpayers have been willing to step up with us to get it done. So we're going to keep working on those issues. I do want to highlight, as I did earlier, a model that we think is important, because one thing that we hear from our unsheltered residents is they feel safer on the street than they do in shelter. So how we invest in shelter, by the way, I don't agree with that necessarily, but I do agree that we need to make more investments in our single system, especially for men. And that 801 East Men's Shelter is an example. Next question.
Last time I talked to you, we were at Union Station and talking about infrastructure and the task force that you've assembled.
Yes.
There's been a filing by Amtrak to essentially take it over by eminent domain. Were you consulted in that? Do you support that? Just kind of curious what you make of this filing.
We haven't taken a position yet. I do agree, and we will work with DOT and all of the entities involved, that there has to be a governing structure where one entity takes ownership and accountability for the development moving forward. Whether that's Amtrak, whether that's us, whether that's some kind of compact, we will continue to weigh in. We think Amtrak, I haven't decided. But we do need, like, you know, all the different ways that we can control a project. And so we're going to examine the most efficient way to get it done for everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One last off-topic question in
Okay.
regards to your challenger, Robert White, unveiling a crime initiative later this afternoon. Don't know details yet, but would know that you and your budget have proposed money for additional officers to increase our force. Talk about your initiative to fight crime currently in the city as we wait for more officers to come in, and especially addressing the young people involved in some of our violent crime in the city.
First of all, I need the council to approve my package. And I have said repeatedly over the last several weeks that it's a package. It needs to move together. I understand preliminarily that the Judiciary Committee has already peeled 20% off of the package. And I can't hire 347 officers if you take away the tools that I need to do it. That includes, in this budget proposal, housing incentives. I can't retain 300 officers if you take away the tools that I need to do it. And that includes education incentives to keep mid-career officers on the force. So I asked you to focus on two numbers, 347 to hire, 300 to keep. To hire the 347, I need the money in the positions and the incentives to compete with other jurisdictions that want to hire good officers. To keep 300, I need incentives. I need to, we advance the education incentive to keep good mid-career officers on the force. That's how we get our numbers up. So you can't say you're for police hiring if you're not moving the package. Yes. Who's next, Mark?
Mayor Bowser, I have a question about the choice of CeeLo Green to perform at Emancipation Day. Given his controversial, if not offensive, remarks about rape victims a while back, were you involved in this decision? Do you think he is really the best person to represent your administration, Washington, D.C., Emancipation Day, given what he said about rape victims in the past?
Mark, I really have no idea what you're referring to. I will say that I don't pick the talent usually for lineup. Sometimes I do. But I'm not familiar with those allegations.
Well, they're not allegations. He tweeted out when he was having legal problems, and a woman accused him of some things that he was later not charged with. He tweeted out, "Real rape victims remember being raped, and it's not rape if you don't remember." Is that something you want to associate yourself and the District of Columbia and Emancipation Day celebration with?
I'm not, again, I'm only hearing those remarks for the first time.
So do you think the people who whoever was in charge of hiring should have done a better job of vetting him? I mean, you're hearing him now. Does this leave you with a good feeling about who was chosen by your administration to perform?
I'm not going to answer cold. Certainly, our values suggest that every person who has been assaulted or has a credible allegation of assault should be taken seriously, and that's how we operate our government. Yes, community question. Press question, community question.
Just back on topic, I guess.
Yeah.
You mentioned the increase in homeless encampments around the city, and I know there's been some efforts to remove some of them from different areas of the city and Northeast especially. But the fact that there's still a lot of them in certainly part of the downtown area, how do you guys sort of assess how much you tolerate them, and what goes into thinking about eventually moving more and more of them off of the parks and the corners and things like that?
We have a thoughtful approach in our care pilot that we think is compassionate, but also very deliberate in talking to people, taking a lot of time to get them comfortable with a move into appropriate housing. We have certainly explored all of the encampments where there are multiple tents and have prioritized how we're going to approach them. Yes, sir.
The people that y'all let in, like the new buildings that we have right here, and the ones that really have mental issues, what do y'all do with them? Because like when they in the building and they got a nice house, some of them just be lunching out, and then you got other people that live there scared. What do they do for that?
And that is an excellent question, and it's one that we are grappling with. Our DHS agency, of course, assigns individuals for wraparounds to provide wraparound services, and we want to work with property managers to make sure that they know all of the assigned personnel to work with one of our residents. But let me ask Laura to say more.
Yeah, thank you. So everybody who comes in permanent supportive housing, as the mayor said, is working with a case manager, and that case manager is providing services as well as linkages to the range of services and supports that somebody may need. But we know that housing is a stabilizing factor, that people generally, their addiction goes down, their mental health improves with the stability of housing, and that's really been studied and proven across the system. So we work closely with our providers, and they are providing exceptional services. When people experience severe and persistent mental illness, they're often getting full wraparound ACT team services from a behavioral health provider. And again, while we know that sometimes, just like with people who never experienced homelessness, that people have mental health outbreaks and episodes in housing, and it's really important for us to understand when that happens so we can be sure that we are proactively going out there with services and engaging with folks. So we do hear about that, and we do encourage people to continue to outreach to us so we can make sure that those services are in place and people are safe and communities are safe. But one thing we do know that I want to be really clear about is that when people are in housing, everyone benefits, everyone is safer, and everyone is healthier.
All right, let's get ready to move on with Donald.